Alright, so the project at hand for right now is building an electric pressure washer. I have, I believe, all the parts that I need. We have our 2 horsepower electric motor, which I spec'd out to be right for this 3.5 gallon per minute pump. It might be a 3 gallon, I don't remember what I purchased. But it's either a 3 or a 3.5 gallon, and you can go online onto some websites and look up the horsepower rating based on the pressure that you want, as well as the gallon per minute flow. So I did all that, and everything's spec'd out accordingly. I have a old pressure washer pump cart here that we'll mount it to, and then I have a bunch of little individual fittings that I will show you kind of how we're going to do for the build, and a pressure gauge. So let's go ahead and get started, and we'll get this thing put together, hopefully get some electric to it, and then we'll be able to test it out here. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and mount up the engine first. And I just drilled these 4 holes for it. I set the motor on there about where I wanted it, marked it with a Sharpie, and then I drilled 4 holes for it to mount to. So let's go ahead and mount that up, and then we will return once the engine's mounted to complete the rest of it. Alright, so we have our electric motor all hooked up here, and now we're going to move on to the pump. So we'll make sure we have our keyway that's on here, make sure our surface is clean, and I will line up now my pump and my motor so that they align correctly. Now this process does take a little bit, as you need to make sure the keyway is in line with the motor, and ours just slid on. So I'll go ahead and install the 4 bolts that came with my pressure washer pump, and we'll go ahead and install those into the motor, and we'll catch you when all these bolts are installed. Alright, I did a little mock-up test here for my plumbing. This is kind of how I had planned it. So coming out of here, I have a T that has a female 3/8, a female 3/8, and then it has a male 3/8. And then I have another male 3/8 to our pressure washer adapter here. I have a 3/8 to 1/4 union here, and then my pressure gauge is a 1/4 inch NPT, so that'll work out great for that. It's a 0 to 2000 from Carbo. And then for the inlet side, we have just a standard, I believe this is a 3/4 inch male to male nipple, and then we have our garden hose connection right here. So my pump also, and I don't know if you can catch this on camera, has labeled out, so we'll make sure that that's coming out for the pressure washer. And then down here it has an in, and that is where our garden hose is going to be coming in. One other thing to check is the oil level. Mine came full of oil, so that's good. It's got plenty of oil. And in case you all are wondering, this is an AR pump. It's an AR pump. I bought this off of a website online that I found. So I'm going to go ahead and put some Teflon tape on these fittings, and then we will go ahead and put it all together, and then we'll move to the electric. Alright, so I have some Teflon tape here, and I have my nipple fitting here. I wanted to go over quick on doing some Teflon tape because it can get a little confusing. What you want to happen is for the Teflon tape to tighten as this is being screwed in. So if you're looking at your threads, you're going to take it and you're actually going to wrap it clockwise. So we'll go around clockwise, and we'll go around a couple times to make a good seal for that. And then all you have to do is just rip it, and it'll kind of self-adhere itself. And there we go. And so you'll do that for each side. Now you don't want to do the other side that way, or it's going to be the opposite direction. So we'll flip it over, and then we'll do the same thing, and we will wrap it clockwise. Takes a little bit of practice, but we'll just go around probably 3 to 5 times, and that'll create a nice good seal for us here. And then we'll wrap that around. So now when we tighten this up, it'll actually tighten the Teflon tape and that won't come undone. So that's the case for both sides, which is good. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of the fittings and then we will assemble it. All right, so I have all our fittings taped up and I'm going to start with this elbow, and this is going to be on the outlet side. Now if I were to put my pressure gauge on here, it would actually hit this, and so that's why I'm going to start just with my my T here, and we're going to snug this up good. Now you don't want to go too over crazy tight on these brass fittings, otherwise you could break them, but you want it nice and snug so that no water's leaking. And I'm going to get mine straight up and down. It looks pretty good to me. And next I'm going to put on my pressure washer quick connect. Now all my fittings here, the Teflon tape is tightening. Not just the way it's supposed to, so that's good. Alright, now if you just saw there, my fitting here actually moved slightly because I was tightening this and not holding that. So I may actually try to take that around another turn here. Next, I'm going to put my 3/4 to 1/4 inch. And we'll go ahead and do our pressure gauge. And that looks like it's all pretty well in line. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I just like it to be. I'm going to just adjust this a little bit. All right, that looks pretty good there. Everything here should be nice and tight. And now I will just move on to our garden hose connection. We have a rubber gasket in there on this one. You can see that in there. Probably don't need any Teflon tape for this one, but I already have the fitting done, so we'll just go ahead and put that on. And we'll stick this one on the inlet side. I certainly could have done the inlet side first to give me a little bit more room, but this is fine the way it is. Alright, that's on tight. I may choose to, at some point, put an angle on one of these so that it's easier to get to this hose one. But I think it's good the way it is for now. So we have our water inlet down here and our water outlet up top. And we have our pressure gauge. So let's go ahead and move on now to our electric. Alright, we're on to the last step here, which is the wiring. And I'm going to wire this right now for 120 or 115, and I'm no electrician by any stretch of the imagination, but thankfully they have our wires labeled here. Like this one, for example, says T5, this other one says T9, and nicely they included a diagram here for 230 here on the right and 115 on the left. So they give us line 1, line 2, our power cord, so a nice picture, so that's definitely nice. And then they also have a schematic up here. So I'm going to follow that. I'm going to wire everything up. I won't bore you, and I will show you it when we're done. Alright, after a little bit of trouble here trying to get the little side piece off that should have popped out, but it didn't. We got all the wiring together, followed the diagram. So everything should now be set. The pump's all on, there's oil, the wiring should be set. So I'm gonna put on the cover plate here, and then we will run a test. All right, just want to make a quick video here of the new pressure washer pump. I plugged it in, I've been using it for snowmaking, it's working great. It's very quiet, and so I do like that. Everything about it so far is working great, and I initially had too much pressure for what I was initially planning, so the horsepower that I was needing was about 2.4, and this is a 2 horsepower motor. So I fixed that just by dropping the pressure for the output that I was using. Ended up actually adding more nozzles to my snowmaking, of which this pump will be primarily used for. And so I dropped it from about 1,000 psi down to about 240. I'd like it to be a little bit higher, up to maybe about 500, so I'll probably get some new nozzles for that. But the pump's working great and don't really have any issues with it. So let's go work on another project.